Señoras y señores, damas y caballeros, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. For at least 20 years, inhabitants of cities all over the world think that traffic, road congestion, and its effects constitute one of the most common problems that everyone wishes will magically disappear. And almost everybody dreams of being able to solve these problems without sacrifice. Before discussing your city, I would like to illustrate briefly how 4 metropolises are currently dealing with this question. Berlin has invested an enormous amount of resources in constructing one of the most articulate public transport networks in the world, and still today continues to invest most of all in rail systems. In Berlin, 80% of the trips are conducted by rail-based public transport. Car ownership is low, 322 cars per 1,000 inhabitants. Lesson from Berlin. Extensive, integrated networks cut down the need of cars. Madrid could have a polycentric structure. This model, to be effective, requires the presence of a consolidated and historical urban poles with personality and multifunctionality. Nevertheless, in order to render them truly efficient, they need high-speed rail-based systems, not only radial, which almost always exist, but also orbital. Madrid is growing using a multi-nuclear model at the city edge. Each of these new foundation nuclei is served by a new rail-based line or an extension of an existing one. To be honest, not even with capacity enough. Anyway, this is an interesting example of integrated planning. Lesson from Madrid. Successful multinuclear models need strong public transport connections. Los Angeles has for years been the paradigm of the sprawl and the car city. Nevertheless, a large and ongoing plan is in action. A huge amount of resources are being invested in the creation of new rail-based infrastructures, both urban and metropolitan. Much remains to be done, but the New Deal is underway. Lesson from Los Angeles. Never say never. Even the car cities are capable of designing a better life. 20 years ago, the first time I visited Beijing, I was struck by the streams of bicycles. Today, the economic boom has brought well-being, but also millions of cars, and one of the worst examples of pollution in the world. During the Olympic Games, the odd-even system of number plates was implemented with excellent results. Beijing suspended about 2 million motor vehicles, cutting nearly 120,000 tons of pollutants, 63% of total motor vehicle emissions. As soon as limitations were removed, traffic doubled. The authorities are now thinking of reintroducing these radical limitations, increasing at the same time public transport network. Lesson from Beijing. Simple measures can have a strong effect. It's possible to make cities more accessible at various times of the day if we have policies for measures based on carrots and sticks techniques. We know dozens of measures, but my opinion is that first of all, the cities must offer to their citizens and city users a substantial enhancement of the public transport services and an intelligent location of the primary urban functions, near to nodes which are better served by public transport systems. This will make cities more accessible to all and therefore fairer. The urban growth is almost always founded on the road networks and rapidly degenerates into sprawl. This is the case of Milan. Sao Paulo is not so different. Now, where the sprawl exists, what can we do? The only reasonable approach would appear to be going for urban densification and modal integration, assuming that even the car is not the devil. And such integration will involve every mode of transport inside the travel chain. The traditional engineering approach to mobility makes use of transport models, more or less sophisticated, usually deterministic, rarely stochastic. My approach to analyzing the results of a range of mobility policies is quite different. It takes into account the orders of magnitude and uses very simple tools, not only because of lack of time and money, but also because I believe that the right approach to urban mobility issues should be soft. My theory is that the functional form of the present and future cities is changeable and depends on the hour of the day and on the mode of transport used. I believe that a non-material dimension, the time, is the right key to read the functional urban form today. The working cities spread out from the sites where the city's income-generating activities are concentrated, and this becomes evident in every weekday's morning rush hour. In green, you can see the areas accessible in less than 45 minutes from the central business district of every city by car and by public transport. The difference between the functional city form is clear in terms of graphics and statistical results. The numbers show the percentage of inhabitants living less than 45 minutes from CBD by public transport. This means that some of the cities examined show situation of incredible potential efficiency. Others show clear complexities. Looking at Sao Paulo, I'd like to show you an example of accessibility maps to the city core and a comparison to London. I'm totally aware that I'm reading only the skin of the problem, but these provocative pictures could improve our knowledge. They show the current accessibility in a weekday AM peak hour in London and Sao Paulo, by car, by public transport, in the extensive bus rapid transit scenario, and in the improved railway system scenario. I'm sure I don't need any further description to these pictures. A better national accessibility would improve the regional growth of less developed areas and create stronger connections between cities and economies. A few years ago, I did research comparing the effects of high-speed train versus the traditional air connections for all Europe. The emerging southern European diagonal connecting Lisbon, Madrid, Barcelona, Marseille, and Milan is a good example of the potential effects of high-speed trains. The population living inside the 4-hour isochronal area is 67 million using aircraft and 135 million using high-speed train. Could be southern Brazilian cities be connected by this efficient mode of transport? I think so. Thank you very much for your attention.